Thank y'all. Feel free to turn off your camera because I will put this on my YouTube site. So, learning how to navigate disagreements more effectively, developing better communication tools, which a part of me wishes I used the word communication or dialogue instead of conflict, to just increase team conflict capacity and certainly to build connection. I think it's good to have a confidentiality agreement with your teams when you do this. We do this in mediation. It's very important that people know what happens in this room stays in this room so that there's a space to be very honest in it. Um, it's good to have a conversation on what respectful listening looks like or respectful participation. How will you honor different views, right? So we all have different thoughts on all of these that I'm about to share. Can we agree to hold a space where people can share their perspective? It happens so easily. I mean, for those of you who are in conflict management, you know, if you ask questions, people really want to dialogue. And that's the goal behind these cards. Pay attention that everybody has an opportunity to respond, but no one has to. But offer that opportunity because in a small group, you sometimes have that one person that needs an invitation. And I find when I'm working with groups that that invitation almost always gets a yes. You know, somebody may be reluctant to speak up, but if you address them uh, differently, I mean, specifically, they certainly do. And then have a learning mindset. The reason for this is to learn from one another, to learn to understand ourselves better, and to learn tools for navigating the conflicts better. So you can do this a number of ways. You can take turns drawing the cards. There's several questions on the back of the skill set cards, which we'll get to soon. You can give people the choice of which question to ask. There's usually four questions, which may be too much for any given card, but I like options. I'm a mediator. So the questions give options for you to be able to ask the questions that you want. They're also usable not just in your workplace and organization, but even building your own skill set, which is why for me, I think a number of the people who have bought these are mediators and are coaches and are people that work with people because these are every single one of them are tools that you can use for your own clients. Um, Now, if you're using them for your group, the cards do spark some great conversations, but it's important to remember that every situation is different, and there is no right answer to conflict, and there is no right way to use the cards. I believe that with the cards and the skills on the cards and the stories with the cards and the questions, it'll evolve organically in the way that your organization most needs it to. So let's talk about the cards themselves. So the story cards first. As I said, there's 20 of them. And one of my favorite stories in how somebody used the story cards, I thought was brilliant. I would have never thought of it, which is why I think you all have the best input on the best way to use the cards sometimes. But she was negotiating between, she's not a mediator, she was negotiating in a large group one issue with two opposing sides. So she was hired to come in and help these people reach a decision. And what she did was start out with two story cards, not necessarily this particular card. I don't know what she used, but she started with two story cards and brought them together with the story cards. So describe a time when you handled a difficult conversation or conflict really well, when you were proud of how you responded. What was the situation? What did you do that worked? How did the other person respond? Did it change how you handle conflict now? She had two of those cards, had a discussion, and she said then when she brought them together to resolve the problem, it was a piece of cake. I'm not kidding. She said it was so easy. Why? Because she built connection, right? So sometimes when we go in with conflict, we have people coming into the room already know what they're going to say, know what's wrong with the other person's story. know how they're going to let them know how wrong they are, pretty unsure what they need moving forward. But if you start it with what our organization does right, what I do right, what's worked in the past. So all of these cards that are story cards, every single one of the story cards are focused on a win and remembering that win and remembering how that win happened because we are often reinforcing the negative more than we are remembering what we did well. So that's one way to use it. Another way to use it is just as an opener. Before a meeting, after a meeting, randomly. One of the biggest problems, difficulties that I hear in organizations is that they feel disconnected and unseen. I can promise you, and I almost never make promises like this, when you ask people questions about what's going on and how they think, they will share. And that sharing and having a space that's safe to share because you want to learn what they have to say, excuse me, builds relationships. And that building of relationships builds trust. It builds collaboration. It builds potential, and it builds loyalty. But without seeing people, the other steps become rote too. So this is just one of the tools to bring people together so that they see each other. And people will always learn things they didn't know about the other person. Okay, the skill building cards. There are 30 of these, and I put in a few. They're very random. I didn't pick my favorite. I honestly, I'm a bit of a perfectionist in full disclosure here, and I go back and critique my work. This is not the first set of cards I built. The first set of cards I said, yeah, they're good, but they're not what I want. I do like all of the concepts on the cards as really being powerful tools. The one I listed here first is a very common um, conflict management skill from William Ury of Getting to Yes, which is separate the person from the problem. Now we know that we walk around saying Sally's a problem, she never gets her work done on time, or so and so is difficult, or we make the whole person the problem. It's just common. Like we haven't thought of a different way of seeing that, but we can't solve for people. We can't. We can't change who the person is, and that will change the problem. But when we identify the problems to solve, we can find solutions. And we don't make the whole person the problem. So the card, people aren't the problems. Maybe their behavior, maybe how they see the world or how they're acting or some unresolved conflict is. When we make the person the problem, they know it. We create enemies. We create breaks. When we identify the actual problem, and the example here is the review process has gaps, we can find solutions. So we can work on the problem together, not make each other the problem. So focus on the issue or the process, not the person. Ask what's getting in the way of whatever needs to be resolved, and invite collaboration. Invite them to fix the problem together. Just short little tips on every single one. And the back, the questions for your team. Where in your workplace is disagreement currently feeling like opposition? Where does it feel like we're against each other instead of identifying the problem that we're against? How do you typically respond when someone disagrees with your approach? What happens for you? If a disagreement feels like someone is against you, how can you navigate your feelings to set the conversation up for success? And tell about a time when has disagreement felt personal to you, and how might seeing it as different, not against, not opposing, change your response? What would happen for you if you looked at the problem as they're not the problem, but how I'm seeing the problem? I'm sorry, but identifying the problem to be solved, how that changes your response. The thing is, we all want the same things. We want things to work out. We want respect, to be heard, and to contribute. We just have different ideas on how to get there. Actually, did I put that? Nope, that's the right one. Oh, that was on the wrong back. I'm sorry about that. That was the wrong back. That went disagreement isn't opposition. Just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they're against you. My bad. I have these in the wrong order. Disagreement is about ideas, not relationships. You both want a good outcome. I use this a lot in my conflict management. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I'm against you. It means I'm different than you. But people feeling uh, disagreeing with us does feel like they're against us. So pause to consider if you're taking it personally, identify your common goal, ask them to help you understand the approach. And sorry for doing that out of order. Now, this happens in workplaces a lot. In the absence of knowing what's going on, we are all hardwired to make up a story. And the chances are that story is not going to be right. But a lot of conflict comes from assumptions. And this makes a great conversation for ourselves and for groups. Challenge the assumptions by gathering information before concluding about intent or character and find out if that story is true. So share the story you're telling yourself. And what I do is, so the story I'm telling myself, Tina Jones, is that you got here late because you really don't care about when my program starts and you weren't late. I'm just using you as an example because I know I can. What's really going on? So I've owned the story I'm telling myself. And it gives the opportunity. I'm not saying, why are you late? Is it because you don't respect me? It's just telling that story. And people do respond with, oh, geez, I didn't want you to feel that way. That's not what I was trying to do. I had to pick my kid up from school or something. Um, no, question your assumptions. Acknowledge your brain is making assumptions. When you're making up a story, learn to recognize it and then ask for help understanding what's really going on. So, team's turn. Who in your life are you absolutely certain you have figured out? That means you're telling a story about them, right? And what if you're wrong? Now, think about this in a workplace. When did you stop being curious about who they really are? What are you missing about this person by being so attached to your story? What are you missing when you don't know the real story? And what would it take for you to see them fresh, like you're meeting them for the first time? So the story we're telling ourselves often reveals more about our fears and our biases and our assumptions than it really does about the other person. There's a reason it's one card at a time. So you can spend a week, you can spend 3 days, you can spend whatever you need working on one skill and building one skill before moving on to another one. Now, I'm always of the mind in every process in the workplace, in my family, in a friendship, in a relationship, how can we set everyone up to win? We're not competing when we're on teams. We want collaboration. And really being clear about our goals is important and our needs is important. Most workplace conflict stems from unclear expectations. I'm going to say that again. Most workplace conflict stems from unclear expectations, which are assumptions. When roles and deadlines and success criteria are vague, people fill in the blanks differently. So the people should know. Don't assume they should. Our shoulds are our values. Help them to know. So be clear about who does what, define what success looks like, address potential confusion up front, commit to a culture of no dumb questions. We want you to do well so that I do well. How do we set everyone up to have that mind frame? So what conflict in your workplace right now is actually a clarity problem? What do people just not understand? What are you not saying clearly because you assume people should know? And by the way, you get feedback from everybody. What am I missing that I'm not being clear in, that you're trying to figure out? When has being nice instead of clear created bigger problems for you later? And what conversation are you avoiding that would prevent future conflict? So being clear sets everyone up to win, including yourself. Don't tell people what they're doing wrong without telling them what right looks like. And I'd like to put a star by that because it's so easy to critique what people have done wrong. Nope, that's not the report I want. No, that's not the conversation I want. And then they go back and guess again, and maybe they won't get it right. So being clear to set both sides up to win. Okay, comments, questions. I can stop sharing for a moment and hear your feedback, thoughts, questions.
I love the consistency of back and forth, having you examine what you're thinking as well, which as mediators, we all know we sometimes get wrapped up in what other people are thinking. So I appreciate that in the cards, Kim. They're great.
Oh, thanks for that. Thanks for that. And every piece of the cards is intentional. So this is an us thing when we're in an organization, a workplace, and even a family. It's an us thing. And we know when we're resolving conflict that it's partly a matter of taking ownership. It's not the other person's problem. It's all of us. Like, how are we contributing it to it? So the questions are designed around um, not what's the person across the room doing wrong, but how can we take ownership? And the truth in an organization is, I'm very systems design oriented. So that is, we don't need the whole system to be perfect in order to have a culture change. We need one thing to change in order for change to begin. Because in a culture that's not working well, it's usually just a repeated cycle of things that we're doing over and over again. Even when it doesn't work, we just repeat that. We get stuck, right? And one change in that can bring about a bigger change. Now, not measurable. Obviously, the more people who are on board with, hey, we're going to change how we communicate, we're going to change how we manage conflict, we're going to change how we have hard conversations, that's big. But for those people who are in organizations, and everybody knows I do healthcare work quite a bit, sometimes it's hard to get buy-in from the organization, but you can change your teams, interactions, your team's dynamic if you are the person that's changing how those conversations go. It does. Now, in all fairness, the first thing that happens if somebody in a small team tries to change the rules is that the team's going to work to get you back to playing by the rules because everybody knows those rules. But if you stay committed to a better way, there's a shift that happens. Tina.
Yes, thank you. Uh, what I love about this is shifting um, the blame from the person and focus more on the actual problem. So name it to tame it. The problem is clarity in the communication, and that takes away the that all of the angst and tension and resentment at the person and helps someone focus more on what the problem really is. And communication's can be a big problem, as we all know. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Tina. So I'm fond of saying blame is not a solution. But we're currently in a culture of two things, blames and labels. And, I normalize that too, just because that our brains are, want to be quick and wants to stick everything in categories. But we will only see the category or the label, the person within that label that we stick them in and fail to see the rest of the human. So I'm pretty sure that I have included some things around blame and labeling in some of those 30 cards. Peter.
Thanks. I love what's on the cards. I think there's some great, jumping off points for great conversation. So I can really see how, one card could lead to hours of discussion, maybe depending on the group. But I do have two kind of related questions. One's logistical, I guess, and one's kind of buy-in related. If you're managing these conversations amongst a group that's, say, remote, or you're kind of sharing electronically, with a team that's on different shifts, perhaps, whatever. Do you have a suggestion for how you can manage that other than, I mean, are you scanning an email? Like, it's a simple question, but like just practically speaking, how have folks managed that? And then I
to
guess,
actually use the cards, to be able to
yeah,
see the
yeah.
cards?
Are you sort of just messaging them, this is what's on the card? Are you scanning it and sort of sending it out to people? This is what we're going to look at in the meeting today. I just think with, disparate teams in different locations and maybe owning only one physical deck of cards, maybe how folks might manage that. That's part one. And then part two is, do you have suggestions for addressing like resistance, on the part of team members who are maybe like, what is this? Or this, oh, another new initiative, those
Hmm.
sorts of things, that seem like the shiny new toy or whatever, as opposed to like a genuine effort. Um,
I love the second question.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think most people, or no, not another change. I say as people, our first answer is usually no, not like, oh, cool, something new. It's like, oh, no, something new. And honestly, I have not run across that. And the reason is I think when you lead with a conversation, it's short, number one. I think the organization's commitment to it is probably pretty important. I know you have a bigger organization, so we want to hear from you is a great lead for that. Like we want to hear your thoughts on this. We want you all to have the skills. We want you to be able to rise to, be able to I have the agency. I want to say empowered, but agency is a better word to have discussions. And we want y'all to see each other, to know each other. Um, I think that's a different I think that's a different thing than you all have this 1 hour continuing education video you have to watch. Um, I find so it's a bit of a facilitated dialogue, what you're doing here.
Mhm.
And I have never, ever not been, or never, ever been in a facilitated dialogue where people haven't said, we need to do this more often,
Hmm.
right? Because we don't give people space to have these conversations. So I mean, seriously, I've yet to leave a facilitated dialogue where people don't say we need to do this more often. Now, as far as the card decks, if you're doing them from one location to a remote, like for me, most people have the card decks present at each location so that people can refer to them when they need it. If you're doing it remote, just doing one at a time, I mean, it's kind of like sharing a book, I guess. You'd have to put a copy on the Zoom like I have here and let everybody share it. But if you want people to thumb through the book, I think they just would need different ones at different locations. So I think the manageable amount for your organization that people can actually pick them up in their hands, look at them. Maybe somebody wants to, take one home and think about it and bring it back, however you want to manage the cards. But I think part of the thing is being able to like literally have them. It has a value for
Mhm.
learning them.
Sure. Gotcha.
Did that
Is-
help for both
Yeah,
of
it
them?
does. Well, you mentioned your deck. Does having them on the deck sort of possible? Is that something you have? Does it come with the card, like just, or is that something you kind of an owner of the cards would have to manage the literal, like, sorry, I mean slide deck, like the
Oh, the slide deck.
slides you're
Oh,
showing today. When you said deck,
yeah. My sample ones.
when you said deck, I thought of slide.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no, I don't know. I mean, I think it's possible just to take a photo of
sure.
one of the cards
Yeah,
and stick it up there as
for
that.
sure.
This slide deck does not have all of them on. I just randomly picked a few.
Got it.
Yeah, I've
Yeah. And
yeah, been
that's beside the point. I'm just, trying to imagine sort of
yeah, no, that's
the
perfect.
scope of it. So
This is help. Yeah, this is
yeah.
helpful for me too. I really value y'all's feedback. Melinda, where in your trombone are you going to put these? No, you don't play the trombone. You're muted.
No, I don't play the trombone, but that's okay. Um, actually, so far, I've only had these for, I don't know, a few months. And I had them the second time I went to work with a particular orchestra. I've been invited to go back for a third time in less than a year. And I'm very excited about these cards now because my brain is working overtime, like how to incorporate them. And like I said, I've worked with this group. I've worked with the musicians and their managements, but I do them separately. I don't do them all together because that's how to engage conflict right there. So I separate the groups so that we can at least be homogenous in what we talk about. Um, but I have used the cards at this point as like my mentor in a bag, right? Like for me, it helps me prepare for my own work with these groups. And I can thumb through them very quickly now and find like, oh, this is a problem here or that's a problem there. Because most of the time when I'm hired about a particular issue. And it's only after working with these groups on a particular issue where they've said, oh, can you do something more general for all of us? And I'm like, ding, ding. So I've designed, and you've seen, I've got this training program now, but now they want more than what I've got. And so I've found, little ways to have things be interactive, but what I see the value here, without turning it into a giant HR thing, with no offense to the HR person here, I'm not HR, right? Like that's not my role. I'm coming into these organizations as a colleague, as an equal, who just happens to have this other training, and like that's my hook, actually. That's why I'm successful at this point. But these cards give me a way to break down the skills even more and give people a chance to practice and have something tangible. Like I'm finally starting to see the value of maybe leaving a deck with them, which I have not yet done. I've just kind of used it for my own thing first and like taking my teacher with me, right? So um that's been how I've used them so far. But I'm starting to like really imagine doing more with them, but I don't think of doing that right off the bat. And I have to say it's kind of a selfish reason because I don't want the cards to become a substitute for talking to me. And that's really selfish, right? Like that feels very weird, but I'm at the beginning of this new career and I don't want to just give people an easy way to just not hire me. I want to be able to work with them on these things, and I don't know how to reconcile that narrative within myself. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Melinda, I'm so glad that you did. First of all, let me just say that um, I mean, thank you for your honesty. You should be peddling my cards, Melinda. Now, no, sometimes in the dispute resolution community, we can find ourselves having a scarcity mindset, meaning there's not enough conflict. I jokingly say I want to work myself out of a job, which is why I created the cards. I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I made the cards not not because I thought, oh, nobody's going to hire me if they have the cards, but honestly, it's the opposite of that. It is the more I believe this about conflict management, the more I can give value to, the more it comes back to me. And it will, like it will. And
I've started to see that because of what I've done with one particular group. And that's why I'm like, oh, starting to change the way I'm looking at it.
yeah, Tracy's right. Thanks for hearting that. It is true. I learned this from Ken Cloak, who's the best mediator on the planet. Like I thought, I learned pretty early on that the best mediators are also the most generous people with literally having a heart for peace building and conflict resolution. So I do know that there are mediators who buy these in bulk from me, which is bulk pricing, and then they sell it at their own price. I sell to SHRM, like the National SHRM, National Society of Human Resource Management, just placed their third order from me. They don't pay my price. They buy in bulk, so they get a different pricing. So maybe that can offer, it can be something that, you include in your portfolio. These are nice. These are nice cards. I mean, I can't give them away because I paid a lot for them myself. But I do think it's the kind of thing. It's like, oh, these cards work now. Maybe we want a workshop, or this card work. We want skill building. But that's just my thoughts on that. But follow your path. But maybe you're wrestling with scarcity versus abundance. And I think when I've learned this, when I'm coming into anything with fear or scarcity, I get fear and scarcity. When I come in with abundance and generosity, and the universe takes care of the outcome if I put my best forward. That's what happens too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of reluctant to work with a particular group on Zoom, just because I find it more difficult dealing with musicians who sit next to each other all the time and have all that nonverbal stuff going on stage all the time. I want to see that as a mediator, but I have found over the ice storm winter that we had, I ended up doing some things online and providing a lot of materials that helped people solve the problems without me, and it just made them hire me back. So
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
actually working. So I think that's kind of what's opening my mind to like a way to incorporate these and leave them with people and just make it part of the package I provide is like leave them with them when I leave. And so
Yeah.
I find them very helpful though, just even just for me. So I
That's
appreciate
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's what a lot of conflict managers have done as well, because they've, sold as much to coaches and conflict managers as to HRs. Um, Pause before you respond. Let's see if I have a more fun one. Oh, this one. This one's always a hit. So, especially for HR, because God love HR, they think they have to fix everything. And very often their fixing is trying to figure out who's right or wrong, which is a different card I have about being right or wrong, about winning and losing. And that card's not going to come up, but it is. A lesson I learned from a dear friend of mine a long time ago. She said, every time that I have to be right, I have to make someone else wrong. And I want to care enough about them that I don't make them wrong. So the listener give advice. I say, people come to you with problems. Now we're mediators. Us mediators do not know what's best for other people. Only they know. We help them have the conversations to figure that out. But most of us call solving a problem or somebody comes to us with problems, we think it's our job to tell people how to fix them. And imagine the relief to know that is not your job. We rush to fix problems, but sometimes people just need to be heard. Most of the time, people just need to be heard. Unwanted advice can feel like criticism. And despite what we often think, we don't know what's best for someone else. I've said that so many times to mediators and trainings, it's crazy. Ask what support they need. So the question is, do you want me to listen or do you want me to give advice? Okay. And the backside of that one is, when did someone jump to solutions before you felt heard? And how did that affect your willingness to share? Y'all don't tell my partner this, but he does that. And I'm like, I'm not talking to you anymore. I don't want that. When team members come to you with problems, how do you respond? What would change if you asked, do you need me to listen or help solve this before responding? And what assumptions might you be making when you're giving advice? What works? Sometimes the solution is just being heard. And it really is. It's so true. Help empower people to find their own solutions by listening. Isn't that a great card? I love that card. Okay, let's see. Got time for another one. Um, yeah, remember it's all about relationships. I think this is the last card in the deck. The person you're in conflict with is someone you'll work with tomorrow. And they're human with breaking points, emotions, and bad days just like you. When we zoom out from this moment, we see that temporary conflicts don't have to damage ongoing relationships. Make room for humanity, theirs and yours. Choose words you won't regret when the heat passes. What to try? Ask yourself, how do I want this relationship to be next month? Make room for emotions and mistakes. They're human, not weaknesses. That's emotions and mistakes. Focus on protecting what you've built while addressing what's broken. And in the back, when have you seen conflict ruin long-term relationships? Oh boy, you could probably hold a whole day conversation on that question. What could have been done to preserve those relationships? What kept that from happening? What keeps people from moving forward when it's hard? And for me, I say it's a skill set. I say when you have these skills and tools, it just makes it easier. And when people are sharing the same language in that, it even makes it more easy. When has someone made room for your humanity during your worst moment? And how would this current conflict change if you focused on next week instead of the next hour? So what works? Conflicts are temporary. We're in this for now. I use the language for now a lot in my work. Relationships are ongoing. Make room for humanity, including mistakes, emotions, and breaking points. The goal isn't to win today, it's to work together tomorrow. We're all doing the best in the moment with the tools we have. And we all know it can be really challenging to be human. Okay, create win-win solutions. I'll just go over this really quickly and then I'll unmute again. And oh, actually, it's the last card. Yeah, so almost always in conflict, and think about this, everybody who's come to you in conflict in the past couple days or conflicts you've been part of, think it's you have two choices, their way or my way. And the truth is, I say as a mediator, my job is to draw a line between those and help you explore everything else on the path between the two of those. There are so many other ways, right? So, how can we manage this so that we both can come out ahead on this? It is the win-win. And the back of the card is simply the question, instead of either or, use and. How can we have this happen, what you need and my need? And yeah, so what conflict in your workplace is stuck because people see it as a win-lose? I mean, Peter, for you, if I do the cards, it's just another thing versus not doing the cards. Well, what about instead of this being, we give it a try and see how it goes? What if we try it for a week or three conversations or some measurable way? So, what if we change from we only have two options to how can we make more options, which is my job as a mediator. Um, when did an apparent win-lose become a win-win and what shifted? Maybe a question I should have put in there is what does a win-lose situation cost your organization? Or when has that hurt us to only give ourselves two choices? But I do try to focus more on the positive in these. How could current resource conflicts be transformed with creative thinking instead of thinking this way or this way? Where could we get if we thought in a more um, creative way that we all could come out ahead? Okay, I'm going to stop share and come back and hear from you all. Did you have a favorite? Questions, comments, suggestions, critiques? I have a card on feedback. I can I can let you all know if you're doing the feedback wrong.
I like
Joseph,
the
go ahead.
emphasis on and.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like the last card, the win-win, and I think of that as being, like some of the things we learned about, fruitful negotiation in grad school, and I'm actually wondering about like where's the overlap or what's the difference in your mind between negotiation and mediation? Like, what's the difference?
Mediation is a mediated negotiation. How about
Okay,
that?
fair,
It is
fair.
a facilitated negotiation. Yeah, you're exactly right. It is and honestly, Peter, I know that it works because having that neutral who is for best outcomes for everybody in the room that can open a space where you see the big picture. Because I always say I am really, really good at conflict management, and I'm not bragging. I'm honestly not. I'm
Mhm.
good at holding that space unless it's my own.
Right.
Because when it's us, it's hard to see the bigger picture, right? So, great question. Thank you. Anyone else?
You had mentioned someone, Kim Cook. Is she also on LinkedIn? You said you thought she was a wonderful mediator.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ken Cloak. I had to take a second.
Ken
K,
Close. Oh,
no, Cloak, capital CLOKE. So he is a senior mediator.
uh,
We lovingly refer to him. I thought I was the only one that did this, as the godfather of mediation, but I hear it a lot. He's written some amazing
uh,
books. If you don't know Ken, he is on LinkedIn. He's incredible. He loves my cards, which is pretty cool. He uses a book that I wrote in his training manual for mediators, but he wrote Mediating Dangerously, which is an amazing book. I'm looking at it on my bookshelf now because it has tabs coming out of it. The first couple years I mediated, I always read a section of his book before I mediated, just to get myself in the right frame of mind for that. Mediating Dangerously, The Dance of Opposites, which is also a great book. He wrote organizational books. I took my systems training from him. He is brilliant. He is brilliant, and he holds a space. I wish I want to grow up one day and be as good a mediator as he is. I'll put
If
his
I
name
have
in
coffee
here.
with any
thank,
mediator in the world, it would be him.
thank
Yeah,
you.
he is.
I've
He's
heard him
our
speak before.
superhero. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And Joseph, if I can ever be of any assistance helping you with connecting with people in the mediation thing, please just reach out, because I am lucky to know a lot of excellent providers in that space.
Oh, I'm sure. Thank you.
Hey, Kim, I have a favorite card, but you didn't talk about it. That I just wanted to bring it up. And it talks about how your anger is information. And I think that's something I say to my colleagues more than anything else, because anger is such a trigger, especially in our legal issues all the time and HR driven everything. Um, it's something's happening in my industry where people just aren't allowed to be angry about anything, even when that's the appropriate response. And so I try to talk about how, don't look at anger as an attack, look at it as information. And that tends to pull things around to a different path. But I just love that card.
Let me explain that card to you folks on here. So basically, whenever I'm doing trainings and I talk about anger, because you're right, like we all have these things around anger, and sometimes it's we're not supposed to have it, and always, or almost always, it is that it's bad somehow. And thank you for being raised that way. We probably mostly all share that. But again, it's just not knowing what to do with emotions. And our emotions are all uh, point us to our needs. So what I use consistently in this, and I refer to it on the card, is The Anger Iceberg by John Gottman. You feel free to look that up. But the theory is that anger is a broad brushstroke over a lot of other things. And I say almost none of us can relate well to anger. Like our reaction to anger is defensiveness, it is withdrawal, it is fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn, or whatever. We don't do well with anger. But if we think of anger as just this broad brush word over things like disappointment, rejection, loneliness, distrust, fear, which looks like anger a lot, we can all relate to those words. So if we think of what anger really represents, now when we find those words, we find that we find the need. Like if my anger is coming from a place of fear, talking about what I'm afraid of, right? So for us as mediators and conflict managers, coaches, whatever you're doing, recognizing that emotion not as anger, but what's going on underneath. Tell me more about that so that you can understand more. And it comes to, I feel disrespected. Okay, what was that like? What does respect mean for you? Then you know the need. Oh, I need to be called sir instead of hey you, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But the conversation works like that because anger is something that points to um, something that a missed need or getting our toes stepped on based on our shoulds and other things that are the underlying issues is what we call it, that comes out as, oh, the problem is that person's just rude. Well, the person's the problem then, and there's anger there. What's really going on underneath? Because that's the conversation that helps us find solutions. Yeah, thanks for that, Melinda. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Yeah, there's, 30 skills altogether, and some of them relate well to each one. It's intentional, right? So that you don't leave with these random things that are disconnected. They all kind of connect, but give different tools from approaching conflict from different views. And again, I pretty much tried to use the what do people come to me the most with? This is what my organization is dealing with. I'll send you all out afterwards a quick start guide that I have, and put the second card that gives the instructions asking for confidentiality with your group, some kind of an agreement to we're doing this so that we understand each other better and there's no wrong answers. Some people call it listening respectfully. I don't. You can ask your group how to create the space. So we're going to have these conversations and share our experiences. Is there any guidelines you'd like to have around those? I don't think starting off they might be like, what? We don't even know what we're in for. So you might want to practice it once and then do that. Yeah, but just feel free to use them in the way that if you follow instead of lead, like lead with a card and follow the conversation, I think you're going to get to places that are very transformational for your teams.
It's interesting.
Sounds like a leap of faith there, Joseph.
No,
So you
no, I just
say.
no, no. It's I was thinking of the when you said to lead with lead with the card, or and then that would help get things started, I suppose, versus
Right.
trying to do quick analysis and saying, oh, let's go here. Yeah,
Exactly. That's
it's
exactly right.
it is
Yeah, I
better
have
to
a I have a go ahead.
it is better to let them control the
Hmm.
flow. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. I have 5 grown children, and one of they're all, if you're a parent, we're always learning from our kids. And my daughter taught me when I started this work, she said, because she's a professor, and so she does a lot of speaking. She said, let me just give you one piece of advice. She said, don't give people what you think they should have, give them what they need. And that has served me so well. And, in relationships and as a conflict manager in mediation, it is, and Peter knows this, help me understand what it is. I hope he does. That's experience I've given you all, what you need, because yeah, that's more important than me just talking to you. And is there a need you have that you're seeing as these cards go on? Is there something that comes to mind from well, our organization really, you know, seems to for now be stuck with this particular thing. Just curious.
Oh, I will say, work-wise, there are several cards that I saw that I think even me as an employee with the company that I feel things that were on that card. So it helped with that. And then with you describing the anger thing. I just went through that personally with my husband, where he got really upset at me last night. And it was just because I was like, this needs to be fixed and this needs to be fixed. So he felt really attacked. And it wasn't, I was just giving him the information and it made him really, really upset, you know? So that was a really good analogy. I hadn't heard that before. So the cards are going to be very helpful for me. So I'm so glad that I met you and I bought the cards.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Peter, do you have any questions before?
No, no, this was great. Thank you for the opportunity to sit and listen and get a feel for it.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very, very cool to see you here.
Great.
All right. All right. Well, y'all know how to find me.
Just one quick question. Has
Yes,
anyone
sir.
ever tried to use these for like an HOA meeting or a town hall of some sort? Have you had any
Yeah.
experience with that?
Yeah. So let me suggest, yes, for an HOA meeting, especially the ones coming together. Boy, that'd be a great way to lead a meeting, wouldn't it? I don't know if anybody has, but using
Mhm.
that, if you're hired by organization to like an HOA to help them learn how to communicate better, I
Hmm.
think it could be a pretty big tool. Were you about to say something? No, okay. Your green light came on, which means I thought you were about to talk. Um, what was the second part beside after HOA that you asked me?
Oh, or a town hall meeting or
A
something
town
like
hall.
that. Just
Yeah.
a little larger where you've got a bunch of random people and
Yes.
there's some interesting stuff to get started with. Okay.
Yeah, let me help you with that. So, first of all, I do everything in my power to avoid a town hall, and I want instead a facilitated dialogue because a town hall is everybody who doesn't like bad words, hold your ears, a shit show, and a and a facilitated dialogue means you have structured questions. The people go into breakout rooms and they freaking love this. I mean, and they should because they get to talk about whatever's going on and design solutions. So a town hall, if it becomes, and it almost always does, a way just to complain and talk about what's wrong, that's so bad for our brains because it just makes it worse every time we say it. Like it's just true. We just hardwire the hardwiring more every time we complain. The thing about conflict management and this process and these cards is it's designed for what can we do better? What's a better way out of it instead of sitting around complaining and as a town hall might be also pointing fingers. So the facilitated dialogue is like, how did this impact you? How hard was it? Yes, it was awful. Yes, this was your experience. Now, how do we design a better way forward? And that's the conversation that people are like, we just have to do this more often. And I've done facilitated dialogues from after school shootings all the way to tragic events on just multi-life, multi-death tragic events. And again, people are like, we need to have these conversations. So yeah, I think the gift of having those conversations, y'all, it's just powerful without judgment, without rushing. The key is to not judge. The key is to not critique someone's opinion. The key is I'm learning this person in this moment, in this process. They might say something different next week, so it's not to lock them in a certain way, but you can see the impact it has. You can see what matters to people through these conversations. You can see what drives them. You can see what their values are, right? And mostly people feel heard, which is a priceless gift.
Now, if we could just get it, people on social media to start using them, we'll.
Yes, that's a great idea. I do want to make
Yeah.
different versions. I wanted to recap, all of my costs on this one before I did, but I wanted to do a family one. I was thinking about doing a healthcare one since it's my favorite too, and one for
Hmm.
kids because I jokingly say as a conflict manager that I've given up on adults, like we're just no, but I haven't. But our future is in teaching these things that we haven't learned to the next generation. So I do have prototypes for those that I just haven't made the bigger cards yet. Yeah.
Yes, the one for
Thank
children
you.
would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. I tested them on my grandsons and they loved them. Like you, I have conversation cards that I use and people just immediately lean into the conversations. It's like you open this door that no one's had permission to have open before. It is amazing to me. It's just the commitment to keep doing it, which is always hard for us as people to keep committed to the next step. And I know it's a lot of cards. I thought about making it less, but I want to give everybody as much as I can for them to choose what works for them versus deciding what they might need. So I have talked with my creator about making the card deck smaller, and I just don't know because I think it might take away from a value that card that means something to you, like the anger one does to you, Melinda. All right, I went over and I'm sorry, but I thank you all so much for being here and you know how to find me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And
My
just-
pleasure.
Thank
And
you.
the link to your website will go there, I guess. Okay.
Have a great day.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Take care.